Well, what a final match to wrap up 2024 for the Wallabies in Dublin against Ireland. And if you haven't seen the result, please look away now if you're just catching up after waking up a little bit later, not getting up for it at midnight, and watching it over your Sunday morning toast or croissant. We're going to whack it up there. It was a really tight game. It was absolutely amazing. It's probably the best the Wallabies have played across 80 minutes this entire season. And it was bookended by great performances from Fraser McWright. Valentini, as always, just performed so well. The entire team across the entire back line just did their job really, really well. And then, of course, Ireland, you've got to give them the credit of the win. They hung in there. They were behind for a lot of the game, but they didn't panic, especially when a lot of their strengths, like the attack, like their layered attack, wasn't quite working as well as they'd hoped. But you've just got to commend them because they ground out a win, and that's what really good teams do when they're not going to get themselves under pressure and stress out over things that they can't control, like refereeing decisions or some skill inaccuracies that they can fix up later in the game. So, congratulations to Ireland. Congratulations to Cian Healy, who became the most capped Irishman of all time, surpassing Brian O'Driscoll. And congratulations to the entire nation, 150 years of rugby. That's pretty much it. But then when you get into the actual game and you get into how the Wallabies went, the Wallabies were leading for a lot of that game, as I said. And that was down to really creative play. Joe Schmidt made it very evident, or the Wallabies made it evident that Joe Schmidt wanted them to play from everywhere. So they were running out of their 22, they were running from just outside the 22 if they had a set piece. They weren't launching long, and that's something that he lamented in his post match press conference. Actually, it was that as the game drew on, they probably kicked too long and out, and they didn't chance their arm enough. There were a couple of moments which we'll come back to in a second, which I think really proves that could have been seen one of two ways, and I think that the Wallabies actually got the balance wrong for other reasons, but we'll get back to that in just a second. But for the Wallabies to begin with, their ability to apply pressure and to be able to get 3 points on the board early was absolutely great. Olasio nails the kick, and then the Wallabies reset. The Wallabies weren't quite as strong off restarts as they have been in previous weeks. Ireland was clearly avoiding kicking the ball to Jeremy Williams. So there were other people and they were catching the ball off the kick restarts, like Rob Valentini, which was probably lucky to get away with a knock on at one point. So that was an aspect which probably could have cost the Wallabies. But I think that the biggest triumph of the Wallabies side really was their defense. Defense wins championships, and I said it before the game that if the Wallabies wanted to be in this contest, they had to keep Ireland under 23 points. And what did they do? They kept them under 23 points, 22-19 in the end. The Wallabies were right in that contest till the very end, and it was just a shame that a penalty couldn't have given it a draw towards the later parts of that game. But the Wallabies found a way to shut down the Irish layered defence. Ireland gave it their hottest crack to be able to crack the Wallabies' defence, to be able to find the seams. They often went around the outside. Hugo Keenan on his arching run, beautiful line runner up against Kellaway, who runs a pretty similar line in attack, actually, so he probably knows how to defend that. But that was probably the biggest concern for the Wallabies throughout the entire match, that when it got out into those 15-meter channels, it felt like Ireland had a lot of space and time, and the Wallabies kind of allowed them to have that. And so that was actually a bit of a concern. And I was wondering how long can the Wallabies hold on here until they concede a try, because they've given someone like a Kellaway on that 13 channel has given their opposite man too much space to run. But thankfully, the Wallabies held tight and it all actually played out really well in the end. They got some good breakdown pressure. They slowed the ball down. The width meant that the Irish players couldn't attack as quickly as they wanted to. So, really well defended. Maybe that was part of the tactic, to push them away from their support and give them that space and isolate them. And then there was also the players that stood up for the Wallabies. So Fraser McWright was absolutely a menace. I'll whack some stats from up here. He really announced himself on the international stage, but specifically for pilfering. So he's been in great attacking player. He's been an awesome defender, but his pilfering game has always just missed the mark because he's either got his timing wrong or it hasn't been in the clutch moments. But today, or tonight rather, yesterday early morning, it was the clutch moments when McWright injected himself and really got onto that ball. And it was perfect. The technique was absolutely immaculate, and the timing was even more so. So, big raps on McWright. He is clearly one of the premier number sevens in the world at the moment. And we are just so thankful and lucky that we have him here for Australia, that we just keep on managing to churn out quality number sevens. And I actually do think later on, Noah Lolosio, who I'll whack up here, his stats were also extremely impressive. And that was probably his best game in a Wallabies jersey. That Jorgensen try doesn't get scored if he doesn't run the perfect Sexton loop line, ironically, against Ireland, and then hold the ball up perfectly to then give Tom Wright enough time to distribute to Jorgensen, who then runs and scores in the corner. Tom Wright does a great job because he holds the ball long enough to commit. I believe it's Tyg Burn, and he actually gets a pretty decent shot on him, so he's winded, but that's what he did. Tom Wright took that massive shot for the team, and that means they scored in the corner. So that was really impressive, and Lolosea was just attacking the line the whole game, and it was the kind of performance that a lot of people have wanted to see from the young fly half, and he really truly stepped up to the mark, and he kind of put a bow on it by nailing a 47-meter penalty kick late in the game to draw the game closer. And that was just one of those things where you weren't sure whether he had that range in his repertoire, but he proved that he probably had another 2 meters on it. So he can now kick. He's established himself as a 15-meter penalty threat. And other teams will be watching this who prior probably thought, oh, well, if we consider penalty around the 40, as long as it's around the 15-meter channel, it won't be a threat to us. They can't go for points. Well, now they can because Loloseo can nail those. And he did so with confidence. And that was just an awesome performance. Conversely, it was a shame for Tane Edmed, who's debuted. Congratulations, but he only lasted a couple of minutes because he was out with a HIA after his head made contact with an Irish player's hip. So you'll get another crack, Tane Edmed. You will get another opportunity, son. So that's really exciting. To have another 5'8" who has come onto the scene, who now goes into the super season with a Wallaby cap, but also the confidence that knows that he should be playing at that level, that can only be a good thing for the Super Rugby sides. There were a couple of moments which were pivotal in that, which we'll go through quickly. The Taniela Tupou break, where he didn't really look well, like he knew what to do. I mean, how often does a prop that's 145 kilos get into that much space? But he could have put it on the toe, he could have held it, or he could have attempted to move closer to Joseph Suaalii, who was streaking down the line. But he just took the wrong option with the Hail Mary pass over the shoulder to Jeremy Williams. It wasn't pretty, and it was not the right option, and I think he'd be the first to admit that. So that was a real shame. There was the Joe McCarthy tackle on Valentini early, which was clearly a yellow card. He's always upright, and yes, Valentini changes direction, but that's when you give him a yellow card and you put it on review. That was the inconsistency was just ridiculous. And the referee was very liberal about what was legal at the breakdown, and it felt like it changed from quarter to quarter. So that was a mess, and that actually hampered the Wallabies, particularly because Ireland were better to adapt to allowing themselves to be messier in the ruck, and the Wallabies just probably weren't being diligent enough about committing an extra cleaner to the breakdown on occasion, and just really planing that player out of the way. So that was a bit of a shame. That really put a sour note on the Wallabies' attack. But overall, it was a promising performance from them in attack. They really held the ball well. A lot of phases put together. I do think that potentially Joseph Suaalii was being used in a way. Joseph Akuso Suaalii was being used in a way which wasn't actually allowing him to show his full breadth of talent. He often was used as a crash baller, and at the test stage, his frame isn't anything that no one has come up against, so they can handle him quite well. And it'd just be better if he was allowed to get in a bit more space running an outline so he can put on a little bit of an offload. And then one out that actually, Kellaway, that was a brilliant, brilliant performance. He was trying so hard. The guy was clearly spent at the end of that match. He had used every ounce of energy to defend, to attack, to cover kicks. It wasn't quite as flashy as someone like Tom Wright, who I thought had a better game than he did last week. Was definitely more involved. A couple of nice kicks in there. But yeah, it was a apart from Lolosio and Gordon, who was very energetic and probably injected himself better than he has in other games. It was a bit of a muted performance from the back line. Ikitau played very well. Jeremy Williams and Nick Frost, really, really good. The line out performed a lot better. The height of Frost definitely helped, and you'd have to just look at what this means for the Wallabies heading into a Lions series, and it'd fill them with confidence. It would fill them with the sense that if I work on my game a little bit harder, then we're in with a shot, because a bulk of that British and Irish side will come from Ireland. And I'll be making a video about the British and Irish Lions and why we all should care and why it's such a momentous occasion and who those players are that we should watch out for during the Six Nations. That'll be coming a little bit later in January. But I think that Joe Schmidt said it in his press conference that there's there's feeling that there is a little bit more in this team, but there just needs to be that consolidation of retaining knowledge and then also just being able to feel that they're confident enough to be able to extract that from themselves. So very, very exciting. The final note probably goes to a nod to the skipper, Harry Wilson. He led very well, great in attack, really stepped up in defense, which is something that people have been criticizing him for, probably justfully, but he definitely stepped up this game. And depending on the health of Liam Wright, his form, you'd have to almost think that Harry Wilson goes in as captain, but for the Lions series next year. But we all know that Joe Schmidt really, really values picking the team first before he picks a skipper. So we'll wait to see on that. But all in all, Wallabies, you played a beautiful game. You fought extremely hard. We're all very proud of you. And Ireland, well done. You deserve the win. And congratulations on 150 years of rugby. Those jerseys looked amazing. So yeah, Jesus, what a way to wrap up 2024. There'll be a couple more videos coming out before Christmas, and then we'll start turning our attention towards Six Nations and Super Rugby Pacific, because the season starts off earlier. But until then, guys, please like, subscribe, follow the channel, and comment in below. I want to hear what you think about the match. I want to hear what you think about the performances of McWright, Lolosio. Where do you think Suaalii can go from these 3 games that he's played in? Oh, sorry, these 4 games that he's played in now. And I want to hear what you guys think about the overall performance and where you rate the Wallabies, for this end of year tour. A piece will be coming out this week on the raw.com.au, as well as Rugby Pass. This is Off the Rock, your weekly breakdown with me, John Ferguson. And I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday and have a good week. And I'll see you on the next one.